Today on Business Success in Six with Stacie, I have Jeremy Solon here from Tapped Maple Syrup in Stevens Point, Wisconsin. Jeremy, thanks for jumping on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to talking with you.
Me too. Do you mind if we talk? I'm going to ask you 6 questions about tapped maple syrup. Do you want to get into it?
Perfect. Yeah, sounds good.
All right, here we go. When people ask you what tapped maple syrup does, how do you describe your business?
Yeah, so we make infused, barrel-aged cocktail and pure maple syrups from sustainable forests in northern Wisconsin. Our motto is kind of maple syrup beyond the pancake. Maple syrup and pancakes are, it's a good combination, but I think maple syrup is so much more versatile and has a lot of higher uses beyond a pancake. So we really work on kind of expanding the use of maple syrup in culinary uses, cocktails, different cooking applications, grilling, all those kind of things as well.
Ooh, okay. So then do you also educate people on the different ways they can use
Yeah.
the product?
Yeah, we try hard to do that. And I would say my background is as an educator. So education is kind of a core part of what we do, both on the forest ecology side of things and on the use of maple syrup side of things. So we do a lot with recipes and cooking demonstrations and just demonstrate or showing people how to use it. So whether that's through sampling or online demonstrations, things like that. So yeah, as much as possible.
Sounds sweet to me. What were your plans when you started your business? You've been in business for 7 years now. So what were your plans
Yeah.
when you started and how has that changed over the years?
Yeah, so Tapped basically came out of a desire to make sure that we'd be able to keep the forest land that's been in our family for over 100 years still in our family. So it was looking for and playing around with ideas for businesses that would allow us to stay connected there and generate some revenue from that land.
Wow.
I grew up working in the woods with my dad and uncle, and knew that if we were just going to produce a like commodity product like basic maple syrup, that wasn't going to work. So I knew that we needed to have some type of value added product to differentiate our business, but also generate a little bit higher revenue and kind of not get swallowed up by by larger companies and
Yeah.
competed by larger companies. So we played with a bunch of different ideas. And one day, Abby, my wife, who's co-owner of Tapped, brought home a recipe for I think it was ginger infused maple syrup. And she's like, "Oh, you
Ooh.
like ginger? You should try this." And so we made that. It was awesome. Found a recipe for cardamom infused maple syrup. That was fantastic. And so that was basically the kernel of the idea that grew into Tapped, which paired well with our kind of foodie interests as well. So that really grew out of the interest of keep protecting our forest land, having a business there, and then that desire to be involved in the food scene. So and that's still really the core of the idea behind Tap. That's basically what we do, as we talked about, a lot of education around how to use maple syrup, but also the importance of protecting forest lands and
Yeah.
staying connected to those places. So so that pretty much continues on in slightly different ways. But
Yeah. Oh my gosh, how special is that? That it's not only your family land, but then it is, part of our North Woods, part of that gem of property that we have in our lovely state. So that's really, really cool. And so
yeah,
it has grown in the past 7 years as well, right? You talked about you getting serious in the past 5 years.
yeah,
Anything else that's kind of changed in that time?
yeah. I mean, I guess product wise, we've done a lot of different things. So when we started out, we had a few infused maple syrups, and I remember one of the kind of key moments was I talked a lot about how you can use maple syrup, like we have the ginger maple syrup or cinnamon maple syrup in old fashions, and people are like, oh yeah, that's kind of interesting, but how do you do that? Which basically led to us developing maple syrup specifically for cocktails.
Mm.
And then we have a whole line that are cocktail focused maple syrups. So it's been, I think some of those biggest changes are, better understanding our customers and what their interests are and needs are, and then, specifically developing products to meet those interests and needs. So our products have expanded pretty dramatically. So in addition to cocktail syrups, we have syrups that are more focused on the culinary side of things. Again, for the same reason of when I
Yeah.
would talk about that, people would be like, oh, that sounds interesting, but I don't know how to do that. Which one would I use, kind of thing. Um, so definitely shifts in products. And then I think on the production side, things have changed quite a bit. We started out making maple syrup from our own land in the sugar bush where I grew up making maple syrup. And then, realized pretty quickly we were going to run into production constraints.
Hmm.
And so started working with neighbors to be able to expand our production. But then also through that started to think about like what's the intent of Tapped, and how do we best fulfill that from the land protection standpoint. And so basically intentionally capped our own production so that we could then work with neighbors to support their efforts as well. So part of what we do through Tapped is buy syrup from neighbors who have kind of share those values around land protection. So we buy maple syrup from 6 to 10 additional producers, again, who share those values and are nearby friends and collaborators, basically. And we'll continue to do that. We could expand our own operation, leasing additional land or whatever, but very intentionally want to be able to kind of build a rural economy around maple syrup to protect that land.
Yeah, well, and that leads me, actually, you kind of answered my next question. What is the biggest way you impact the community? So one of those major ways is just
Yeah.
protecting that land. Is there anything else you want to expand upon with that?
Yeah. So that's definitely a major one. The other part of what we do is a lot of community support here in Stevens Point. So we actually contribute at least 5% of our profits to an organization called Farmshed. So Farmshed is an organization that's focused on building a local food economy in central Wisconsin. So they do a lot of amazing work, but support for small scale farmers, support for farmers markets, actual food production. They have what's called frozen assets. So they'll buy fresh produce, process that, package it for sale later in the year, and all kinds of kind of value added processing right now that they're getting into. So when people buy a bottle of maple syrup from us, they're also helping to build that local food economy in central Wisconsin. And then we also support other nonprofits and get involved with quite a few things that way. But yeah, those are the two primary things: land protection and support for local food.
And you said you donate up to 5% of
Yeah, at least we do at least 5% of our profit is generally, more than that. We also, that Farmshed has a community kitchen, shared kitchen space. So we actually do processing in that space. So most of our infused and cocktail maple syrups are bottled in that kitchen. So another way we support them as well.
How great is that? Well, thank you for sharing that. My next question, what is one challenge that you have faced that other business owners can learn from? You talked about having to cap production a little bit on your own property. Are there any other challenges that you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, I think the most interesting challenge for us is finding the right scale. And so as a side business, my wife co-owner works in the business kind of half time, but for the most part of it's we're fitting things in around other things, family and work and all of those kind of things. So trying to find the scale that makes sense for our lives and from a profitability standpoint and all of them. And the challenge of that is when you are kind of searching out a scale, what at first glance would seem like, well, you can get to that scale and just kind of stay there and exist, but it doesn't really work like that, right? There's continuous ebbs and flows of customers and partners and all of those kind of things. So there's it's a continuous challenge to ride the right spot. And we've at times grown really fast and found the challenges of that, of like growth requires a lot of capital and time and all those kind
Yeah.
of things, and have also kind of been on the other side of that, where we're kind of trying to hold still, but find that that doesn't really work, because if you're just hanging out, you're going to decline.
Yep.
And so like finding that right balance of where we need to put effort to kind of maintain the scale that we want, has taken us a few years, and we're still in the middle of it.
Sure.
Right now, I think we have a pretty good balance, but I think that's like, in working with other small businesses, I think there's always this like continuous growth mindset. And to me, that's not that much fun for one thing. There's like an ego part to it of like, yeah, we're, continuously growing, but you just run into so many challenges of like, where do you get the capital to do that? How do you manage? When do you bring on employees? And as soon as you bring on employees, your profit is good.
Ability goes down. Yeah.
Like all those kind of things. And so I think for what I encourage other businesses to think about early on is like, where does it seem to make sense? That'll probably change, as you go along, but where does it make sense from a scale standpoint for you to be? And it's probably not just as big as you can be, because I mean, maybe that'll work, but there's probably some point along the way that makes more sense than that. But
Sure. Well, and it's where do you want to be? Where do you need to be? And our coaches talk about even the law of entropy a lot. Like if you're not continually growing in some way, and not necessarily the way you want to, but if you're not, like you said, you're on that decline, or you just get stuck. And yeah,
right.
it's a challenge that that it sounds like you're growing through and overcoming though. So congratulations on that.
Today that seems to be working.
Yeah. Right. Today that does.
Tomorrow, who knows? But yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely. So my next question for you, Jeremy, is what does the future look like to tapped maple syrup? And do you have an exit plan? What are the plans for the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great question. We kind of are all over the board, related to kind of the last question of challenge wise, where do we want to be?
Yeah.
Uh, I think in the, 5 to 10 year plan, I think we'd like to get to the, a little bit larger, in the sense of being able to fully support one of us, fully working in the business.
Yeah.
But I like, we'll see how things play out, but with the goal of kind of continuing to support and protect our family's land. Like
Mhm.
the plan is to keep this going as long as possible within our family. So we don't really have an exit strategy. I mean, if something came along, Tapped as a brand, it's not us or the land itself. So there's obviously other possibilities, but that, that is the intent, is to basically use Tapped for as long as we can to maintain that connection and generate some revenue from that land. So it would be, we have kids who are high school, college age. I don't know,
Okay.
whether that will be of interest to them or not, but our goal would be, if it is, that there's the potential for them to be involved
Sure.
in more of a way than they are now. And then I think, I mean, all the other parts of that is like continued innovation and continued partnership building, are basically the long-term strategies, right? So we work a lot with other small companies, kind of depending on the space. But before we were talking about Siren Shrub Company, who you've interviewed.
Yes.
They're close partners of ours. We work a lot with Bittercube out of Milwaukee, and are kind of continuously developing products together and thinking about what the next product line is.
What the untapped opportunities are,
Yeah,
right?
right. Hopefully we won't tap those out too quickly, but I mean,
Right?
we love working with other people who are way more creative and savvy than I am. And we'll, continue to do that. I think, we have in the way long range plan in the back of my mind, in a sense, is a kind of wide variety of products beyond maple syrup. So I imagine a time when maybe we're still doing the infused maple syrups, but I can also think that the specific maple syrup products will be a minor part of what we do, and there'll be additional related products, food and drink related products that aren't at first glance recognizable as maple syrup, right? So
Interesting.
things like that. So we've started playing with some of those ideas. So we'll see where that goes. Well,
That is so exciting. And you talk about you not being creative. I guarantee you're creative, but I think one of the most important things that we need to do is surround ourselves with other people that are
yeah,
creative or that are smarter or that can look at things from a different way. So it sounds like you're really on the right track to doing
yeah,
all that. So
yeah, yeah, definitely.
awesome.
And that's the fun part, right? Getting to work with other folks.
Yep.
So yeah, that's generally where we're headed.
I love it. So my
Yeah.
final question for you today is all subjects open. What inspires you most, Jeremy?
Yeah, I mean, really two things. We've kind of touched on them both already. One is the land. I mean, the health of our forest and forests in Wisconsin in general is kind of the core inspiration, and is what I've essentially dedicated my life to on the business side and on the education professional side, however you want to think about that.
Yeah.
And so the opportunity to be in the woods and kind of work in a way with that land that produces a product that people are excited about inspires me. And then the other inspiration comes from partners and kind of the new product development. And I mean, it's not just about new products, but that's an exciting part of it. But then the continuation of those products and expansion of who's using those products and where they're getting used and all of that. But really that all for me comes from partnership. So even on the new product side, most of our new products are developed in partnership. But then we do a lot of our work through wholesale partners, and we think of them as partners, not just customers. So we're in partnership to support each other, and so we have a lot of amazing wholesale partners across the state and across the country that we really enjoy working with, and they're kind of our direct connection point to customers and helping us to better understand what their interests are and what's doing well and what needs to be improved and things like that. So yeah, it's those two things, the forest and our partners that inspire me.
Absolutely. Leaving that legacy and working together. So if somebody wants to get in touch with you to get your products from a retail or even wholesale point of view, what's the best way for them to connect?
Yeah, through our website. So we have an online store, and there's information there about wholesale partnership too. So it's tappedmaplesyrup.com. Pretty straightforward, but yeah, all of our contact information is there, and all the background on Tapped and all of our products is there are there. So that's the easiest way. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for preserving our woods in Wisconsin, for offering awesome, tasty things for our culinary and our drinks. I love it. Jeremy,
Yeah.
good luck.
Yeah.
Congratulations on
Thanks.
doing all this for the past 7 years and looking forward to connecting again.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You take care.